It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome back to another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see he's very fired up, jamming to the music. Alan, how are we feeling?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Back at home today. Bugged out of there a little early. Had to take care of the dogs. My wife's out of town. You may hear them barking in the background. Try to shut them up, do what we can. Let's consider it additional musical accompaniment.
There we go. Consider it that. Let's get into some newsy stuff. It is Wednesday, so this is the heavier day of practice, I guess, of the week.
Yeah, no pads today, though. So
okay.
No, this is the first week they've gone without pads.
First week without pads on Wednesday. Okay. So let's get into some of this stuff. Russ still limited. Did he do any more than what you've seen him do, though, even in that limited capacity?
Not that I can tell you about. Okay. What I saw that I can talk about is in the one video up here on the YouTube channel, and it's him doing a handoff and not doing a bootleg while every other quarterback did. That happened like at the very beginning of practice, and I'll be perfectly honest, like until I see him do that like the rest of the quarterbacks, I'm not even really paying attention. If you can't like execute a play fake bootleg, like what are we even doing here? I don't know. It doesn't seem like I did not.
That's
see
going to have been the benchmark thing that we brought up, right? Is the bootleg. We haven't seen him do that yet, and that's.
I just keep bringing it up because it's like the very first thing that happens in practice. So I just put my phone up. I'm like, let's see if you can do that. No, you can't. All right, I'm just gonna go pay attention to something else now. Like that. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Gotcha. All right, so not much to report on there. Keanu Benton also limited. I don't think anything to really. Yeah, with that one. Then we get to the DNPs of the list here, though. Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith, who we knew was going to miss. Pruitt, who Tomlin said, would have a chance maybe later in the week. And then Jaylen Warren and Cordarrelle Patterson, of course, the running backs. So with that being said, Shampklin gets elevated to the active roster. I know that he got a helmet before Jonathan Ward, but surprised that it's maybe him over Ward for a second straight week?
Yeah, I am. I guess the team, I don't know, and I see that differently. I think I like Jonathan Ward better, but I don't think there's a big difference. Talked to Aaron Shampklin a lot today, man. He's a dude with a cool story. Grew up in California, went to Harvard, has bounced around the NFL and sub-NFL landscape over the last few years. He spent some time with the Cowboys. He spent some time with the Colts. He was with the Houston Gamblers. I guess that was the USFL, I think. Then he was with the Chargers last year in training camp, but was cut by the Chargers in training camp, but was completely out of football all during the regular season. He signed with the Steelers in January for 2024. And he told us today he spent his regular season as a substitute teacher back at home in Long Beach, California, teaching middle school math. Pretty cool to go from there to the NFL. I don't know. I think he's an interesting guy. I don't know. I think the Steelers should probably hope that they don't need him for a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah. He played 13 snaps last week. We'll see what that number looks like. But, Jaylen Warren and Cordarrelle Patterson's health would obviously ultimately be the dictator of if we'll see him at all and what capacity we would see him, depending on if one or both those guys are able to or not able to go. Expected that they would be DNP at this point. We'll see if we need either one back. The one in here, Nick Herbig, do you think something to worry about there in terms of his availability?
Not yet. If it stays this way, yeah. But, he finished the game. So, generally speaking, you feel pretty good about his availability. I don't know if he'll be 100%. I don't know if he'll be able to be a full go. But I think he'll probably be able to play. And I think getting Jeremiah Moon back off the IR, he had his first practice today. Talked to him a little bit this morning. He told me it was a high ankle sprain in that right ankle. Feels good, close to 100%. Obviously not up to him about when he comes off the IR, but I think he looks like a guy that could play this week, and that would really be a shot in the arm to the depth of that unit. I didn't think DeMarvin Leal at outside linebacker looked great last week. I do think he's better suited to be playing inside, and I think a guy like Jeremiah Moon would really help that process along.
Yeah, you mentioned Jeremiah Moon. That's what I was going to bring up next, is him coming off IR and practicing today, as well as Isaac Seumalo in a full capacity. So, was limited 3 times last week. We thought he could return then, but now that he's starting off the week on a Wednesday, full capacity, got a bunch of reps next to Dan Moore on the left side. Looks like we're getting our left guard back on Sunday night for sure.
Yeah, to the point that Mason McCormick was like, yeah, I was over on the right side. So, I mean, I think that's the dead giveaway, right? If Mason McCormick's if they thought there was a chance that Mason McCormick was going to have to play left guard, I think he would have stayed over there and Spencer Anderson would have been playing right. The fact that Mason McCormick was at right guard, I think tells us everything we need to know. Seumalo's back, McCormick at right guard, and I think he's probably going to start and play the entire game. I'll be surprised if we see Anderson outside of an injury situation. With him being probably the top backup at all 5 positions.
I was going to ask you your thought on this, and this was just something that occurred to me. I don't know if this is the team's plan. This is just something that I thought about, because Spencer Anderson can play tackle, although Sharping can as well. I was wondering if maybe Sharping was brought in to be the primary backup on the interior because they wanted Anderson to maybe be at tackle because of the lack of depth that they have there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're just scrounging for good offensive linemen anywhere you can find them at this point. But I think Anderson's versatility lets you kind of do, like, take whatever you can find. As opposed to feeling like they needed a something or a something else. I think Anderson will now be the top backup. Like I said, I think he'll be the top backup at all 5 positions. Then we'll see if Sharping gets up to speed, what he can do, if maybe he would be a better option at guard. Same thing, I guess you could say about Calvin Anderson at tackle, but I think Spence is the guy for right now.
Yeah. And then kind of just rounded up the transactional stuff here. Darius Rush and Jaylen Elliott, who they waived, both cleared waivers, so they could come back to the practice squad. They could sign with another team. We'll see how that goes down. Do you think that the Steelers would have interest? They still have the one practice squad spot right now open, right? Or no?
No, practice squad is full, but they have an open roster.
Okay, I thought it was for some reason 1-1, but okay.
And, so they have 52 on the active roster, 17 on the practice squad. Yeah, I think there should be an interest in bringing those guys back, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else to add news-wise from today or anything else? I wanted to bring up something that's not necessarily directly related to this. Actually, first we'll talk about it since we're talking about injury stuff. Brandon Cooks for the Dallas Cowboys going to miss some time. Obviously going to miss this week. Sounds like it's going to be a multi-week thing. So you look behind CeeDee Lamb, and I'm not trying to one-for-one compare it to what the Steelers have in their room, but there's a lot to be desired now in the Cowboys wide receiver depth chart as well.
Yeah, not like the world's deepest room to begin with. They lose Cooks. I mean, Jalen Tolbert has been there. And they've got some interesting young guys.
Javonte Turpin, but he's more of a returner. Ryan Flournoy, who's a rookie.
Turpin is like 5'9", so like he's going to play. It's like exclusively as a slot guy, which is okay. Tolbert and Lamb are both big enough to play on the outside. Ryan Flournoy is really interesting. Number 80 for the Cowboys, is a rookie out of Southeast Missouri. He caught my eye at the Senior Bowl. Not a lot of players from Southeast Missouri floating around. I didn't recognize the helmet at the Senior Bowl. You only see helmets, because they're wearing like orange Reese's Pieces uniforms because Reese's sponsors the Senior Bowl. So they just have orange or white or black or gray uniforms, and then their regular helmet. And I'm looking at this helmet like, sort of looks like Louisville, but it's not Louisville. And what is that? So it's SEMO, Southeast Missouri State. Mark Robinson played there like very briefly in his extremely itinerant college football career. But Flournoy is interesting. I think he'll probably get a chance to play. It was a 6th or 7th round pick of the Cowboys this year. And then, Tolbert, Turpin, CeeDee Lamb. I mean, I think it really makes any question about what the Steelers' coverage plan here is going to be moot, is that it's going to be Joey Porter Jr. against CeeDee Lamb. He's going to have to play better than he did last week. I don't think he was very good against Michael Pittman. But I think the Steelers played a lot of zone in that game. And I think I'd be looking at this more like a kind of too high game. The Cowboys can't run the ball at all. So I think this is more of a too high game where you can play cover 2 man and let Joey press, but also give him some deep help. I think that's a more attractive option for the Steelers this week than it has been.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. We'll see what the game plan looks like. The funny thing that I wanted to bring up that wasn't directly related to this, I know you've seen it. I'm assuming most people that watch or listen to this have seen it at this point. Ocho just randomly putting out there that he's having an MMA style fight with Debo, James Harrison, former Pittsburgh Steeler, the week of the Super Bowl. What is this about? What is Ocho trying to do here? Does he have a death wish? I have a lot of questions about this.
So apparently this stems from like Ocho was talking some mess on an episode of, is it Inside the NFL that he's on with Ryan Clark? And and so he was talking smack, and Ryan Clark, I guess, like called him out on it. I guess he FaceTimed Joey Porter Sr. in the middle of the show to put Ocho on the spot. And now I guess this has spilled over from the world of television to the world of, well, celebrity MMA is basically still the world of television, but apparently, allegedly, Chad Ochocinco, a 100 and at best 80-pound wide receiver, is gonna fight a 3-round scheduled, because let's be honest, they're gonna take 3 MMA bout with former Steelers linebacker James Harrison. This like, I hope this is not real, because Ocho would get really, really injured.
Yeah, like, is this just a publicity thing that they're trying to drum up, like something else? Like, I just wonder if something else is behind it. That's like, this is kind of directing people's attention to that. Like, are they secretly working on something together and they're trying to like build up hype for it? Like, I don't know. It's just,
I hope
conspiracy
so.
theorist.
I hope that's what it is, for Ocho's sake. And James, make sure you get him to sign a waiver. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
would you pick in a fair fight, like a real MMA fight, Chad Ochocinco or James Harrison with his left hand tied behind his back?
Well, he's gonna find a way to break that out. So somebody's gonna have to constantly be putting that back behind.
He can't break it out. If he breaks it out, he's disqualified.
Okay. Man. I think still James Harrison.
I think
I don't know. Like, has Ocho even been in like the celebrity boxing game that's become pretty popular? Like, I don't think so.
No.
So yeah.
Ocho doesn't look like he's ever been in a fight in his life.
I mean, he's not like one of those like cardio kings. Like, he's openly talked about him having a terrible diet and like really doing the bear. Yeah. So
I think he'll be in better cardio shape than James right now, I will say. But like, still, all it's to take is one punch.
I mean, I like it, but I don't like it for Ochocinco's perspective here. Yeah, I don't.
I hope he like shows up wearing a football helmet and refuses to take it off or something like that.
And as somebody that enjoys the clips that come out of the nightcap with him and Shannon Sharp, I hope that nothing happens to him during this. Can't have that.
Shannon Sharp needs get your boy. Talk some sense into him. Talk some sense into him. All right, don't let this happen.
Oh yeah. Well, I think Shannon's got some of his own stuff going on and lately as well.
Shannon seems to be living his best life.
Yeah, that's certainly been the case. All right, let's talk about Davante Adams a little bit more here, Alan. We have some different perspective to add into it. Even like there's a YouTube comment that talks about just the Steelers, and it's interesting the way that this person's perspective ties in just honestly like their entire fandom of the team and like a big picture perspective. But I think it's interesting because we did get some comments, like we asked for people to give us their perspective if they don't want to make this trade, if it is for like hypothetically even a 3rd round pick, like we've thrown out there. And it goes back to the same thing that like we briefly touched on yesterday, where people just don't think that it's worth it to add a rental, if you were going to view him that way, to this roster, because they don't think they can win it all this year. And I know that you wanted to touch upon this as well, but just like the way that people kind of overrate the value of 3rd round picks, what they become ultimately. Like on the surface, yeah, it's a day 2 pick that could turn into something obviously of value for you for 4+ years on a rookie contract, but ultimately could also be absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are pretty strongly overrating the value of a 3rd round pick, especially in the near term. Like 3rd round picks are sort of like right in that like sweet spot of the draft where like they're probably not going to be right away contributors. We're seeing that this year with Roman Wilson. But I mean, like Darnell Washington was not a big contributor last year. DeMarvin Leal in his third year still has not been a contributor. Kendrick Green, they tried to make him a contributor his rookie year, and it was a huge mistake. Even Alex Highsmith, who had a very good rookie season, Deontay Johnson, who was a great third-round pick, were not huge contributors their rookie year, right? So they're not like right away guys. They can be like medium-term contributors where you can get some good production for them towards the end of their first rookie contract, those sort of years 2, 3, and 4. You can, if you hit on a pick and you get a player like Johnson, a player like Highsmith, a player like James Conner, Cam Sutton. The Steelers have had them, Javon Hargrave. They've had them in their past, where you can get some value, but it's going to be a little bit down the road. And I think the thing about the Steelers is they're not making moves starting with this offseason like they're worried about down the road anymore. They are making moves like they are worried about right now. And their seeming lack of realistic ability to contend has not dissuaded them from doing things like trading for a 35-year-old starting quarterback. And I think trading for Davante Adams is another potential kind of win now move. But like that third round pick isn't going to fix anything next year, probably. Cam Hayward's already 35, TJ Watt's 30. The core of this defense is not getting younger. By the time that third round pick would reasonably be expected to be a pretty good player, I mean, you're talking 2027.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know what the Steelers look like in 2027. So I think there's an urgency here from the team that they want to win one before this defense gets too old and or too expensive, right? One or the other. I mean, TJ's contract's coming up. And I just don't know how much a day 2 draft pick really helps in that regard. I mean, like I mentioned some of the names, but like you see even, around the NFL, third round draft pick is still a lot of a crapshoot. Like you're going to get some good players, but you're going to miss a whole lot too. And, I think people are kind of overrating how much a third round pick is worth.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll be honest, like I think I saw a lot of takes that I actually resonated with today with people that want to make this move regardless of how you look at it. Like, I mean, you mentioned a lot of the talking points within there about the age of the defense. Like we looked at this offense and looked at how young and inexperienced it is, but that's not the case on the other side of the ball with the defense. Like if you view this team as somebody that, isn't worth investing into in terms of trading for a Davante Adams because you don't think that they're going to be that good the rest of the season, they're not a Super Bowl contender, you don't even think that they're that close, like, when does the conversation turn to should they trade TJ Watt because you feel that way? Like, do those people also feel like that should be the case? But for me, like, regardless of how I feel, if this team is a Davante Adams away from a Super Bowl, and I don't think that they are, I still think you got to take shots. And I think that this is an investment worth making if they can get it done, and a shot worth taking if you can get it done. So that's kind of where I'm at with it for a third round pick. I would certainly do it. I guess my question to you is we keep throwing around the third round pick, but it's also like, would you do it for a second?
No, and I don't think anyone else is either. Like unless they're going to let him work out a new deal with the team, or the Raiders are going to take on more money. Like I wrote about the salary cap today too. The salary cap is kind of a non-factor here.
Right.
I know people are like throwing around. I don't know where everybody's getting this $44 million number. I don't understand that.
That's his cap hit. Yeah, it's his cap. It's not even the base salary or anything.
Yeah. So like without getting too far into the salary cap weeds, any money that the Raiders have already paid him has to stay with the Raiders. If they are spreading that money out over years of salary cap, when he gets traded, that stays in Vegas. That doesn't come with him. So, yeah, his salary cap for the Steelers will be $13.16 million, I think it is. As of right this minute, it goes down by about $1 million every week, and then $36.25 million each the next 2 years of purely theoretical money that is absolutely not ever going to be paid out. I got into some conversations with some that's the other side of this too, is I got into some conversations with some people online today. I'm like, this guy's not a top 5 wide receiver anymore, people. Like, he is about a top 15 wide receiver, was 15th in receiving yards last year. He's not going to get paid like a top 5 wide receiver at 30, will be 32 years old at the end of this season. $36.25 million would make him the highest paid wide receiver in terms of cash in the NFL in each of the next 2 seasons. There's just no way that's happening. And so nobody's giving him that money. Those years are almost completely irrelevant. They may as well not be there. It's just the same as getting a player on an expiring contract. If you want to extend him and he wants to be extended, you can. Otherwise, that's it. Like, they just pretend they're not there. They don't matter.
Yeah, some dude, like, actually, I try not to get upset when having conversations with people on Twitter, regardless of what they say to me, because it doesn't matter. But like, somebody actually upset me, and we were going back and forth about it. And I said, you know what? He might as well be making like $200 million each of the next years as cap hits, because it wouldn't matter, regardless of what that number is.
Somebody tweeted at me and was like, the salary cap doesn't matter. And I'm like, well, listen, first of all, that's really dumb. I hate when people say that. The salary cap does matter, but you are onto something. The salary cap does matter, but only guaranteed money matters. Like, non-guaranteed money does not matter. It's monopoly money. It's fake. It's not real. It doesn't, like, it has no bearing. And so, yeah, that's the facts here. The cap matters, but only the guaranteed money. And Adams doesn't have any. So he'll be getting a new contract with the Steelers or with the Jets or with the Saints, or God forbid if he stays with the Raiders, whatever. He'll be getting a new contract from somebody that is grounded far closer to reality than $36.25 million a year.
I saw I don't know if you're aware of this. It blew my mind that he is tied for the lead in touchdowns since going to Vegas still, with the quarterbacks that he's played with, which is pretty crazy. You mentioned the receiving yards, obviously, but he is tied for the lead in receiving touchdowns since going to Vegas in 22, and he's had Derek Carr, Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, Jimmy Garoppolo. He caught one from Jacoby Myers. Is there anybody else within there? Maybe Brian Hoyer. He's had a plethora of quarterbacks throwing the ball. It's almost like that DeAndre Hopkins Texans stat from all those years ago, where he was a 1,000-yard receiver with like 6 different guys. But anyway, yeah, I think Davante Adams can still go. But I agree that no one's paying him the money that it looks like he's set to make right now. The other part of that, though, that I wanted to ask you specifically, like, this is a Jets situation, because that's kind of where I've predicted he's going to end up landing. Do you think that then, this is just me like begging for crumbs at this point, maybe a Jets receiver would be on the market if they go and get Davante Adams? Like, the Steelers tried to meet with Mike Williams before he signed with the Jets. I don't know what Alan Lazard's guarantees look like, but that wasn't a good contract when he signed it with the Jets, in my opinion. And obviously they're not trading Garrett Wilson. So it would be Lazard or Williams, but Williams to me more enticing just because you don't have the financial commitment beyond this year.
And Lazard is the only one of those three that is like a real slot option. I guess you could play Adams in the slot, but it doesn't seem like it's the best usage for him. Maybe. I mean, I think there's still other guys out there, right? Like, with still Darius Slayton, still D-Hop, still Cameron Sutton, or Cortland Sutton. Still, so, like, there's lots of other options out there. I don't think the Steelers would necessarily need it to be a Jets receiver, but it may add one more to the mix, sure.
I'm looking here. Yeah, potential out actually after 2025 in Lazard's contract. So $11 million base salary, 2-point-something signing bonus. Yeah, $6.5 million dead cap. Okay. But anyways, yeah, we'll see how that shakes out. Again, but would the Jets want to trade him within the AFC, whoever it was they were trading? Anyway, I don't know. I wanted to bring up, like I said, I think that there was a comment that you got on your morning rush that was pretty good perspective from a Steelers fan who wrote us a book, basically. Benjamin 44. We appreciate the comment, Benjamin. I'm going to kind of sift through this as opposed to reading the entirety of it, because we might be sitting here for like an hour, if so. But we appreciate the comment for sure. I've been a Steelers fan since I was a kid in the late 70s, early 80s. Really started following the team more closely in the 90s. Talks about, going through the Cordarrelle Stewart era, where the defense was number one, but never had the offense to get over the hump, didn't have the full complement of players there. But within that, he concluded that he'd rather have a team that's always competitive than go through several years of being horrible. I appreciate the team that I'm passionate about, how well run, classy they are, and even opposing fans respect. So I agree about Adams. It's worth it to be that much better and give yourself a better chance come January to get Davante, because even if you don't win a Super Bowl, you get optimistic and fired up every game, knowing that it means something. Every Steelers game for most of my life has been meaningful. I love it that it is that way and want it to continue to be that way. Mahomes was a 10th pick, Josh Allen 7th, Lamar 32. So it's not like top 5 pick guarantees you to land an elite quarterback. So I don't see the value in tanking. I feel bad for a lot of fans of franchises that have nothing to cheer for. Meanwhile, my team is always in the mix. I think I got pretty good most years, especially because I've always been more of a fan of the defensive side than the offensive side. Anyways, thanks again, Alan. Also, this is a Morning Rush comment, so I'll let him go for not saying my name within the comment.
And A+ flattery to get your comment read as well. Long comment there. I really like it though, man. I just like and especially set against the juxtaposition of today's postseason comments from Pirates general manager Ben Cherington. Like, shouldn't Pittsburgh fans more than anyone be more than well aware of the fact that like failure does not lead to success? Like, that's just not the way of the world, man. Failure leads to more failure. Can lead you to a better draft pick, but like a lot of bad. There was one good comment, and I forget who it was, but like there's like a real fine needle you can thread there, where it's like it's great if you can have a bad year because all your good players are hurt, right? Like in 2019, the Steelers probably should have just let themselves be bad instead of like because all their good players were hurt, and so just Ben was hurt. They didn't really have any other good players on offense, but I can say Connor and Juju, whatever. Like, yeah, I guess the year the Burrow gets hurt, and the Bengals should have gone in the tank last year and got themselves a top 5 draft pick. You can try to do it that way, but other than that, having your entire you can't turn over your whole team fast enough. If your team is bad enough for you to be bad, then you're going to continue to be bad because you're stuck with most of those guys next year. And I think the Pittsburgh Pirates, with your round the 4-1-2 hat on, certainly should provide the counter example to everyone who wants a team to be bad and so they can build up assets in order to make a run at a Super Bowl. Someday it just may never come.
What about like the tangible stuff that just can't be like it's hard to equate the value of like winning just breeds winning, right? Like the culture that it creates within it too. Like it's kind of hard to, the players are never going to want to be a part of a tank anyways, even if they're on a bad team. Like front office, maybe because like to get a higher pick or whatever, if you lose your top player, like you're bringing up in the case of Joe Burrow, but those players certainly, as evidenced last year by Cincinnati, still competitive in every game. And that like, so how much of that is also part of the equation? Like the players needing to win, even if they're bad, just to kind of like create that winning culture.
I don't know that like winning helps, but losing hurts. That's how I think about it. Like, okay, if you're on a team that wins, the buy-in is so different. Like, and it helps in every way, right? And not just about like the players that are contributing to that winning. Like, it provides better, like, competition amongst athletes can very easily be toxic. But when you're competing and when you're winning, you want to compete harder, right? Like you want to, like it, you're seeing the benefits of the competition. And so that trickles down, right? And so like, let's say you have a team that's going to the playoffs, but you got like one guy who's maybe like the kind of weak link on this team, right? His backup is like, man, I know we can get there. I'm going to push as hard as I can. Like I saw everybody else push and now I'm going to push. And now that guy's got back up on the practice squad is like, I see what this guy's doing. I can do it. And everybody pulls it together and you build a positive culture. And it's so easy for negativity to creep into that. I think social media has made that different. I think the way just in general athletes are and expect to be coached today has made this more difficult. It's really hard to keep a team together and things going positive, even in the best of times. We've seen plenty of winning teams tear themselves apart over, not just talking about football, but in all sports. There are plenty of teams that win just fine, but can't get along. And you really aren't going to get along when you're losing. And you're not going to win a championship if you're not getting along. And so I think like that's such an important part of the process that the the idea of just lose some games, you'll get a higher draft pick is ignoring.
Right. And you see pretty much every team go through it, which is why to me it's so important. Don't get me wrong, I want the Steelers to win a Super Bowl, obviously, but just the base level of success that they've had is so impressive year in and year out, to know that every game that they play is going to be competitive and meaningful. I haven't seen them play a game that meant absolutely nothing in years, and it's certainly not that way for every fan of every team. So I like where this comment's coming from, and can certainly appreciate their perspective of it.
Yeah, me too. I think honestly, I think it's what makes the Steelers special. They are never going to be bad. You can hang your hat on it. I'm 40 years old, Smitty, and I can barely remember the last time the Steelers were truly bad. Even 6-10 in 2 years under Bill Cowher, the second of which gets them Ben Roethlisberger. Those were not truly bad teams. It's all the way back to the mid 80s before you find a truly bad Pittsburgh Steelers team, and even then, happening in the warm afterglow of 4 Super Bowls in 6 years. And so, it's what makes this team what it is. I say this a lot. Steelers fans love to laugh at the Browns, but if you let them run the Steelers, they would very quickly run it just like the Browns do. The Browns run the team like fans, and the Steelers don't. And they're not about that life. They understand the value of consistency, and that winning begets winning. And it's hard to win in the NFL. It's hard to win a championship. And I think now it's never been harder, because I think it's never been more about one position than it is right now. Really, in the NFL right now, you don't have a chance if you don't have that dude at quarterback, and there's maybe 3 or 4 of that dudes out there. And it's hard to envision your team winning it if you don't have it. But I think the options at that point are, well, we can just be bad until that dude comes along, or we can be as good as we can be until that dude comes along. And I think the latter option there is by far the way to go.
Yep. At least make yourself part of the conversation. Try to build yourself look at the NFC. I think the dudes that you're talking about are pretty much in the AFC. So, trying to model yourself after one of those top dogs in the NFC, whether it be the 49ers, the Lions, the Eagles, so those are, to me, what we're chasing. So, anything else, Alan?
No, I don't think so. That's pretty much it.
All right, good stuff. Again, we appreciate that comment. We appreciate all the comments that come in. So keep leaving them, whether it's a question or a comment about anything that we talked about on today's show. Alan, tell the people they can find you.
At @Saunders_PGH on X, Instagram, and TikTok. PGH Steelers Now, the site's account, SteelersNow.com. Go there, read the word so I can get paid. Use promo code Allen10. Sign up for SN Plus. And we're doing something different with the Southside Scoop this week. Totally different, totally new. I'm going to put it up tonight.
Oh,
and then
wow.
I'm just going to add to it as the week goes along. So it's just going to be instead of one big, people like to make fun of my mason jar that I drink out of. Instead of one big Allen-sized mason jar at the end of the week, you're getting 3 normal person cups of water as we go through the week.
That's cool. I liked it. That was also news to me. So looking forward to that. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you were here on YouTube. Again, hit us in the comments with a question or your thoughts on anything that we talked about today. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and subscribe over there. You can find us at Steelers Afternoon Drive on any platform, as well as on TikTok at Steelers Afternoon Drive. And then you can find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH. For Alan Saunders and myself, thanks for jumping in and taking another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.